So I'm just going to introduce to you who we have on the call today. So my name is Jamie Lee Baker. I'm the competition manager for this comp here at Innovate UK. I'm here along with Richard, who is the innovation lead. We also have Michael from DBT, and we also have Alex and Sunil from Zenzic. This is the agenda for today for the briefing. If you'd like to have a quick look over this before we begin. Now I'm now going to hand you over to Michael to discuss the UK CAM update, Driving for Growth.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Jamie. My name is Michael Talbot. I am the head of Connected and Automated Mobility Industrial Policy within the Automotive Unit in the Department for Business. I'm the Program Director for the CAM Pathfinder £150 million R&D program between 2025 and 2030. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully many of you I will have seen last week at our broader industry information event. But I'll provide a slightly shorter version of my introductory remarks now. So next slide, please, Jamie. So just checking that we're all here for the right reasons. The opportunity for the UK economically is significant. We see the future of the automotive sector and wider transport sector as being increasingly automated, connected, and electrified, and that there's a very significant social and economic benefits that come from getting that right. But there are some things that that we in government can help with to help unlock those that opportunity. And this is across passenger vehicles, but into other vehicle types as well. And I think, as I'll talk about again and again, our focus is very specifically on supply chain opportunities that will have the greatest economic growth, return on investment for government investment. So next slide, please. So parallel to us is the Automated Vehicles Act, which is led by CCAV within the Department for Transport, and they are continuing to implement the Automated Vehicles Act with a series of consultations over the past few months. I think that they've had 4, closed in the past 6 weeks. So there's plenty of activity there. Please do get in touch with CCAV colleagues and Department for Transport directly. If you need a contact, let me know. But their focus is very specifically on the on-road regulation of automated vehicles. Next slide, please. Within the Department for Business, we are guided primarily by the industrial strategy, which was published at the end of June, and hopefully everyone has had a chance to look at. Within that, I think there's if you can click forward one, please, Jamie, then there are a number of commitments. I think we're setting this out as one of the strongest commitments to the automotive sector within the past 12 years. And as part of this, we've got CAM Pathfinder, as we are discussing today. But you'll see there are other adjacent activities and opportunities that you will wish to be aware of and explore. And again, those on this call will be happy to signpost you to the right people if it is not indeed us. But Drive 35 with their 2.5 billion in capital and R&D out to 2035, battery innovation program. There's transport for city regions, various clusters that we're looking at, but also automotive technology strategy, which will be developed imminently, and we'll be consulting very closely with you on that. Next slide, please. And within the industrial strategy, we have, click forward one, please, the Advanced Manufacturing Sector Plan. Recommend that everyone on this call, if you've not had a chance to have a look at it, please do have a look at it. It's the latest and best statement of what government's new relationship with industry will be looking like over the next 10 years. And click forward again, please. We've got a section on connected and automated mobility, within which we are setting out a fairly ambitious target for the UK to create Europe's first market for connected and automated mobility. So that's something I think worthwhile for us to pitch at. And our objectives within CAM Pathfinder, again, 150 million pounds out to 2030, is to unlock these growth ambitions, anchor and grow the supply chain, so creating jobs and economic growth, but also enhancing investment and export opportunities as part of all of that. So I think there's plenty to play for here, and hopefully lots that will interest you through the feasibility studies and other competition opportunities through the R&D program that were set out last week. I think will probably come up a little bit again today, and certainly we'd be happy to talk you through a bit more in the future. And I think that might be my last slide, but I'll forward over to the next person. And thank you very much. And I will be around for Q&A later, hopefully. Cheers then.
Thanks very much, Michael. So over to me. So my name's Alex Wood. I'm head of product here at Zenzic. I'll be joined also by my colleague Sunil Mayer, who will talk to you a little bit later on from Zenzic, and Tim Pockney as well as our marketing and communications lead, should you need a contact in the future. Okay, thanks. So just really to touch on and reiterate a little bit of what Michael said. So the CAM Pathfinder program is laying the foundations for early commercial market. Its aim is to position the UK with first mover advantage in Europe for deployment of CAM products and services. The program's here to support the UK CAM sector to accelerate its technological capabilities and demonstrate CAM operations as commercially viable, de-risking investment and commitment through innovation. So this program will focus on, again, as Michael said, the high value market segments in the early commercialization of these technologies, whilst ensuring they're safe and secure for all. Okay, if we go on to the next slide. So within Zenzic, so we're a company that are working under sort of three main pillars. So providing insights to industry, insights to industry and from industry, through innovation programs, such as the delivery and scoping of these alongside CCAV and DBT, and what the Pathfinder program is, and what it means for you. And then also along the lines of collaboration, so working between industry, academia and government to make sure that we maximise the benefits and maximise the outcomes of CAM in the UK. Okay, on the next slide. So a little bit now just to Zenzic's role and the role that we play with UKRI and with the CCAV as well. So with Zenzic itself, we will have business development support for you. So it's an entire sort of ecosystem around starting with business development. And Sunil will talk to a bit of that later. But then through competitions, and as I talk about in terms of scoping out those competitions and understanding what kind of funding opportunities are available to have the most impact, all the way through then to project support. So supporting you whilst you're in your projects, and making sure that we can achieve all the aims of the competitions, as well as other things through stakeholder engagements and some of our user groups, and making sure that we can make all the right connections across industry, so that we can kind of shortcut communication cycles around different industry players and connections to various stakeholders that are involved in the CAM space. And all of that's kind of underpinned by our insights and foresights, as well as our relationship with the UK Automotive Council. So that's just a little bit of Zenzic's role and how it fits in with the ecosystem and the UKRI team and Innovate UK team that we'll talk through later on today. And then obviously the stuff that Michael has already gone over. Now, with CAM Pathfinder, we're really excited to be able to talk now about some of the funding opportunities that we're going to be having coming up. So whether that's, and I'll briefly talk about these. So whether that's through Mobilise, our early stage business accelerator program, through to Demonstrate, which is looking at getting technological maturity, or Enable, looking at the service and operation maturity, or as we're here to talk about today, our feasibility studies round. And I'm going to talk a little bit more detail about that, and we'll go on to the next slide. So what are these feasibility studies and what are we looking for? So these feasibility studies are very much positioned around enabling you all as organizations to create business cases for deployment opportunities in high value areas. So, I mean, when you first hear feasibility study, it may not necessarily be the traditional context that you're used to with feasibility studies in kind of early technology-based feasibility studies, as Richard will touch on later. That's not what we're looking for here. So we are really looking for using these as an opportunity to target future commercial opportunities to enable you to have something that you can take within your businesses or out to external investors to be able to go and make that decision to be able to deploy a CAM service into operation. Okay, next slide, please. And that kind of brings me on to the aims. So as I said, it's about targeting those early commercial opportunities in near commercial environments. It's about giving you the headroom and space to be able to produce and then present back to Zenzic and back to the stakeholder group the results of a matured business case for commercial operations without safety drivers at specified locations within the UK. So really we're looking for, with the aims of these projects, and bear in mind that, you know, these projects are going to be ending in a year's time. So it's where you're going to be at the end of that year that you've got those significant maturation in your business case and the real sort of targeted approach then, so that you can make a real commitment post-project. We really want to make sure that you've quantified the economic and social benefits through that, and in particularly highlighting the high value market opportunities as well. And finally, helping to use these opportunities as service operators and the end users of CAM, making sure that you've used this time through the feasibility study while you're maturing your business case to make sure that you've had engagements with people across the stakeholder group on one of those areas, ensuring that establishment of requirement sets for vehicle providers and the maturity of the upstream supply chain to be able to deliver that business case and be able to supply the vehicles into that business case and the technologies so that you can truly go and make a decision at the end of it. Okay, thanks, Jamie. Yeah, I think I'll just cover off a couple of the dates and then hand back over. So the competition is open and live. It was open on Friday, so you should be able to see that now on the funding portal service. And then we will be closing submissions on the 26th of November at 11 AM sharp, and the Innovate team will talk a little bit about that process. Applicants, we're looking to inform applicants by the 19th of January, and for projects to start by the 1st of April and not before. Okay, I'll hand back over now to Richard.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks, Alex, for that. I'm going to take you a brief canter through some of the text of the competition call, some of which we'll have already heard from Alex and from Michael, so I'll not duplicate anything that's unnecessary. So looking at the summary of the competition, the first three paragraphs have been covered very, very nicely by Alex. The fourth paragraph, I'd just like to draw to your attention. We have up to £1.5 million in total, that's grant total, for up to eight projects within this competition. That's obviously subject to there being 8 high quality applications which we receive or sufficient to take us up to the £1.5 million of grant. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, this is the standard text in terms of the competition. So we reserve the right to adjust the funding depending on various circumstances which may occur beyond our control. Alex has told us about the aim of the competition to fund the feasibility studies for early connected and automated mobility opportunities. And the key point of these projects is to produce a business case specifically for high value deployment opportunities. So those business cases need to be sufficiently detailed to allow investor decisions, or they should highlight the barriers which prevent those decisions being made or prevent that investment from being made. We need those deployments, they must operate without safety drivers, so effectively level 4 if you're used to the SAE levels of automation. and that needs to be at somewhere specific within the UK. Obviously, this is a competition, so you're entering a competitive process. And as such, you may score well, but if there's a high number of good quality applications, we may not be able to fund you even if you do score well. Next slide, please. Okay, so moving on to the scope, and as I said, these slides reflect the actual text which is in the competition scope. So there's a brief summary of the aim again there, and a brief requirement of business cases being sufficiently detailed to allow those investment decisions. Next slide, please. Now we start to get into a little bit more about the detail. So the project must result in a detailed business case, enabling that decision to progress or not. It needs to focus on opportunities that operate commercially without safety drivers in the UK. We need to see quantification of job opportunities in the operation of the service, and also the productivity benefits to the economy, and clearly the productivity benefits to those who are actually using the service. We'd like to see evidence evidence for the impact and of the potential opportunities, both for the UK supply chain, and also to highlight opportunities to exploit any linkages to specific technology developers. So in other words, we'd like to hear who do you expect to be using, or which vehicles, which technologies, which supporting infrastructure will you be expecting to use, and with obviously a clear intent that where that's UK based, that would be preferable. The fourth bullet point requires that you must deliver a detailed closeout report, which you'll be expected to present at a closeout meeting with Zenzic to review that business case. It should also detail the outcomes and the next steps before the payment of the final claim for your particular project. The project has to be led by the organisation that is looking to deploy the vehicle service in an operational environment, or led by an operator who will be operating and running the CAM service. So this is very much a requirements pull rather than a technology push. The project must also engage with the necessary regulatory bodies to ensure both industry and regulators remain well informed. That may be that the vehicles will be deployed on public roads, or they may be in a private area. Either way, we'd expect you to be talking to the associated regulatory bodies for the deployment area. We'd also expect you to engage with technology developers to ensure market readiness of the technologies which you expect to be deployed. And we'd like you to include in your closeout report any gaps in UK technology providers for the proposed service. What can you not get in the UK? What do we have to go out internationally to get? Because that will help to shape future competitions in terms of the technologies we need to support. Next slide, please. Finally, we're saying here that limited trials or development for development are permitted, but only to support the investigation towards the feasibility of the specific service that you're interested in. This is not meant to be a technology development project or competition. It should only be there to look at the specifics of your particular application. And as we all tend to use lots of jargon and lots of different terminology, so there's no confusion, please will you use the terminology in your application, and it should comply with the latest requirements of the BSI Flex 1890, which is version 6. And there's a link both here and in the IFS, so you can go through and have a look at it, so that we know what you mean and there's no confusion there. In terms of the portfolio approach, what portfolio approach means is that we might choose some applications which maybe didn't score quite as highly as others, where they're doing things in different ways, which we want to cover a wider spectrum. So there are a number of requirements there, or a number of different aspects there, where we might choose to choose particular types within those variables, if you like. So different market sectors, different markets, different technological maturities, different service types, different geographies, whereabouts in the country might you be, different deployment domains, different vehicle types. different technologies, and also different types of project collaboration. We'll come on and talk a little bit later about project collaboration, but in essence, you can apply either as a single applicant, you can apply as a collaboration, but we prefer it to be an effective collaboration, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. So that's in summary what we mean by the portfolio approach. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide is looking at themes. So your projects must focus on one or more of the 5 themes that you can see on the screen there. One is off-highway vehicles and services. Those are the ones to which the public doesn't have direct access. Freight and logistics vehicles and services, which may be on road. Personal mobility vehicles and services, or public transport vehicles and services. And again, we'd expect those could be either on road or off road, so they might be airside or in a port or something like that. And we're also looking at specialist service vehicles, for example, things like road sweepers or refuse trucks, which are not necessarily transporting people or goods, but are doing a job on the road. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. So what are we not funding? So we're not funding projects which are producing a business case at a system level or a subsystem level. It has to be directly into a CAM-enabled service. We're not funding projects which are technology feasibility studies. We're not funding projects which are industrial research or experimental development. We're not interested in funding projects which are rail related or air or waterborne craft or microgoods vehicles or indoor robots or pavement-based robots or vehicles. And we're not interested in anything which is levels of automation of level 3 or lower as defined by SAE J3016. So effectively, we're only looking at level 4 vehicles. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I think we're back to Jamie Lee on this one.
Thanks very much, Richard. I'm just going to talk through the eligibility criteria now for this competition. So just to quickly run through eligibility, your project must have a grant funding request of between £100,000 and £250,000. It must last between 6 and 9 months. It must not start before the 1st of April 2026, and it must end by the 31st of March 2027. So to lead a project, your organisation must be a UK registered business of any size, a local authority, or a transport authority. And to work alone, your organisation must be a UK registered business of any size. More information on the funding types of organisation can be found on the link via the screen. So for this competition, your project can be collaborative. In all collaborative projects, there must be a lead. Must be at least 2 grant claiming partners. To be considered as an effective collaboration, certain specific criteria must be met for this competition. And also just to note that projects must always start on the 1st of the month, even if this is a non-working day, and this must be stated within your application. Also, to collaborate with the lead, your organisation must be one of these organisation types on the screen. Also, to be an eligible collaboration, the lead and at least one other organisation must apply for funding when entering their costs into the application, include rationale for the collaboration, and describe the structure in your application. Must also ensure any one partner does not account for more than 70% of the total eligible costs. Also, your project can include partners that do not receive any funding, for example, non-UK businesses. However, their costs will count towards the total project costs. We are allowing you to use subcontractors as well. Subcontractors can be from anywhere in the UK, and you must select them through your usual procurement process. You can use subcontractors from overseas, but you must make the case in your application as to why you cannot use subcontractors from the UK. So a business or a local authority or transport authority can only lead on one application and cannot be included as a collaborator in any other applications. If your organisation is not leading an application, it can collaborate in up to 2 applications. This competition does allow you to submit a previously submitted application. Please be aware that addressing assessor feedback does not necessarily guarantee that the application will be funded. So now we're just going to have a look at how you start and complete your application in IFS. So first of all, you'll need to create an account. You must ensure you enter IFS as the correct organisation type, whether it's you starting an account as a lead applicant or whether you're a partner being invited in by the lead. Businesses should use the company's house lookup function so that we have your company's house number. If you're not company's house registered, you can still start an application. If you're successful, you must register with company's house and provide us with your registration number before your goal can be issued. And failure to do so can result in the offer being withdrawn. So onto the questions then. You'll be asked a series of unscored questions initially, giving the details of your team and summary of your project. You will then come to the main application questions, which are displayed on the screen. Please take note of all the guidance given within each question, whether or not you can upload an appendix in support of your answer, and if so, how many pages maximum can the appendix be? All of this guidance is on IFS in more detail. And this slide here just shows questions 14 to 17 as well. So subject to certain criteria, UK applicants are legally required to tell the government about acquisitions of certain entities in 17 sensitive areas of the economy, which are all listed on the screen here. And if you did have any questions about this, please feel free to email the email address on the screen or click the link if you'd like some more information at the top. So you will need to let IUK know if the strategic export controls apply to the information in your application, just so that we can ensure that we do not share any of this with our assessors that are based outside of the UK. You should also consider if you need a license to work with international partners or contractors during or after the project. If you do need a license to export information outside the UK, then you should also be mindful of what you share with international partners or contractors. So we now have 2 additional unscored questions. In the first additional unscored question, you are asked whether your work involves any international collaboration or engagement. And the second question, as shown here on the slide, asks you to explain if your proposed project work relates to the UKRI's Trusted Research and Innovation Principles, as per the bullets on this slide. More information on IFS on these as well. Each organisation in your application will be asked to complete a project impact questionnaire. These questions help Innovate UK to measure the impact our support has on organisations, businesses and individuals. So I now believe I'm going to hand over to Alex to run through the bespoke questions.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Sunil. I am a business development manager representing Zenzic today. Recapping on earlier slides, this competition seeks to enable detailed feasibility studies with projects creating business cases for deployment opportunities in high value areas. An expected outcome will be to produce a business case for review in advance of the project closeout and closure. The following questions aim to extract both the business strategy and specifics around your project proposal. Some questions are not scored. These unscored questions could provide key points of reference for the application and assessment process, so we would advise all applicants to use this opportunity to add as much detail as possible. As you can see on the screen, question 9 asks the applicant to outline the challenges, opportunities and market potential for the feasibility study. We are looking for feasibility studies that clearly define a mobility challenge, supported by evidence of who is affected and the scale of the feasibility study impact. Applicants should clearly describe the challenge and gaps being addressed, how addressing the challenges delivers value add to the UK, the size of the market and future growth. Please identify a location and include any future scaling of operations. Finally, the scale of public and private investment that could be unlocked would be helpful to understand. There is an opportunity to include a 2-page appendix here. Question 10 asks the applicant to outline the proposed CAM service, the value proposition, the location context, and this question specifically aims to extract that value proposition and the offer of a competitive advantage with a credible route to market. Clearly articulate why this is the right time to develop the business case, why the location is key, and how the project outcomes and business case aligns with current and future legislation. Again, there is an opportunity to add a 2-page appendix. Question 11 asks to understand the readiness, identify the stakeholders and the regulatory compliance alignment. Your response should clearly aim to show access to and engagement with all critical stakeholders. Outline the roles and responsibilities, the maturity of these relationships, why now is the right time to undertake this feasibility study. We would advise you to use AV Act definitions such as operators, insurers, vehicle providers, and infrastructure partners alongside the ASDI and NUICO roles as well. Please also detail your approach to safety case development, data security, cyber security across all stakeholders. Again, there is an opportunity to add up to a 2-page appendix. Next slide, please. These next set of questions aim to understand what your feasibility will deliver and how this will inform your future commercialization opportunities and the team that will deliver the feasibility study. So question 12 will ask, what will your feasibility study deliver? How will you know if it's successful? And applicants are asked to outline the scope, objectives, and provide a timing plan, identify key gateways or milestones, any work packages that have been developed and the associated cost, and identify when a business case will be presented. Question 13 requests identification of a commercialization roadmap and KPIs at project level that will be used to measure your success. Please identify a roadmap that outlines the expected pathway towards deployment and or securing further investment based on the outcomes of the feasibility study and the commercial opportunity. Please highlight how you will approach this and any investment or revenue sharing partnerships between operating partners. Identify the key KPIs and also define an investable business case and what must be considered for deployment readiness and investor confidence. Question 14 asks for details of the project team. This question is really looking to identify that the team is capable of delivering the feasibility study with the right mix of skills, experience, and resource capacity. So please do articulate the level of senior buy-in, your authority to proceed, the skills and experience of your team, any capability gaps during or after the study that will be addressed, and highlight any recruitment or contracting that might be required. Next slide, please. We're now moving on to the final set of questions, and these aim to address financial resilience, risks, project impacts, and project costs and value for money. So question 15 in terms of finance and risk is asking for a comprehensive risk register to deliver an investment-ready business case. So please consider how you will ensure financial resilience within your organization or your consortia, including addressing any cash flow restrictions and major spend items, the key risks to delivering an investment-ready business case, how you're going to manage and mitigate these risks at a consortium or individual basis as a single entity, and suggestion would be to categorize those risks as technical, commercial, legal, or environmental. Alongside this, please do consider risks associated with securing follow-on investment. you do have the opportunity here to add an appendix. It would be helpful to see a copy of the risk register and other supporting information. Question 16 is on impact. So we're looking for applicants to quantify the potential for UK job creation, economic growth, alongside wider benefits and future capability building in the UK. So please explain and quantify the potential for UK jobs, both direct and indirect operational roles, and anchoring innovation in terms of centres of excellence or manufacturing resulting from your proposal, other wider benefits such as CO2 reduction, economic growth, productivity, competitiveness, and UK supply chain development as well. You can add an appendix in support of the 500-word count here. And lastly, question 17 is an opportunity for applicants to present how your project, your costs and outcomes represent value for money. Please explain overall costs, including any subcontractor costs and envisaged overseas expenditure. Why is the funding required, and what would happen to this project in the absence of funding? You have 400 words to articulate and justify the cost and value for money. Thank you. We're now moving back over to colleagues.
That's great. Thank you, Sunil. And now we're just going to move on to your project cost categories. So these are the categories that you'll be asked to split out your project costs into in the finance section of the application. The application finance video, if you'd like to have a look at this on the screen, this will provide further instructions on how to complete each section. There's also guidance within each category on IFS. So in your project finances, there are 4 categories, and each organisation within an application must complete their own finance information. As the lead applicant, you must check that your finances are complete and correct. Your total costs and funding request must be in accordance with the competition's eligibility criteria. Be careful to note that the difference between the cost of your project and the amount of grant that you are requesting. And please note that IFS does not validate total project costs, so please just check these over. Before you can submit your application, all organisations within the application must agree to the terms and conditions. IFS will not let you submit if this is outstanding. We'd also just like to stress how important it is for you to submit your application as early as possible. IFS does shut at 11 AM on the dot. Customer support can help resolve any issues, but only if they're contacted in good time before the deadline time. The lead does carry the responsibility of making sure that all partners in the application, if there are partners, have completed their assigned sections and accepted their T's and C's. So just going to have a look through the pros and cons of using AI to support you. So it is necessary that you do your own research as to whether AI is the right tool for you and consider the pros and cons. If you do use it, Innovate UK does not accept any responsibility for any impact of your idea. So feel free to have a look through the pros and cons on this slide. And whilst AI does offer many benefits, it is important that you're aware and that you're potentially sharing your idea with the world. I'm now going to mention some funding rules and how your grant would be awarded if you are successful. So you are unable to claim funding if you're an overseas organisation, your organisation is set up as a branch, you are a collaboration with no formal structure of ownership or control, or you are a Crown dependency. Firstly, there are some instances where we would not be able to award you any funding. This could be if you have an outstanding final claim or independent accountant report on a live Innovate UK project. In this case, you'll not be eligible to apply to this competition as a lead or a partner. We will also not award you any funding if you have not made substantial effort to exploit a previous award or failed to comply with the grant terms and conditions. We award our grants under the UK subsidy control regime. This incorporates various agreements and frameworks. This slide here shows the definition of a subsidy. Innovate UK is unable to award funding to organisations that are considered to be in financial difficulty. All organisations that are awarded are subject to financial viability and eligibility checks. Here's some information regarding Article 10 of the Windsor Framework. And for feasibility studies, you can get funding for your eligible project costs of up to 70% if you're a micro or small organisation, up to 60% if you're a medium-sized organisation, and up to 50% if you're a large organisation. So now we're just going to discuss assessment. So to help you understand what happens after you've submitted, Innovate UK have produced a series of videos, so feel free to watch over these if you'd like more information on this. And the link is here to our YouTube playlist. We'll receive a notification explaining next steps if you pass a technical assessment where you will proceed to set up in IFS. All 8 steps are detailed in your notification, which you must complete within a maximum of 60 calendar days. Please be patient during this stage. Assigning MSPs and getting finance checks completed can take several weeks. So grants are claimed and paid out following authorisation quarterly in arrears. Here are some of our accepted bank accounts listed. Before we end, I'm just going to touch on our partners' business growth. Innovation-focused businesses face obstacles to growth. Common stumbling blocks include managing technical risks, knowing where to find and access the right resources, and having the right combination of skills and expertise within the business to continue to grow and scale. The Innovate UK Business Growth Service is there to support innovation-focused SMEs overcome these common barriers. The support is delivered at a local level by innovation and growth specialists who will provide deep expertise, access to regional, national and international resources, and work with you in a flexible and tailored way. So this support is fully funded and will be offered to all successful UK-based SME applicants following the start of their projects. It is also available to unsuccessful applicants, and you can find out more about the service and how to access it via the inquiry line or the website. Also got some useful links to help provide support to you during the application process and beyond. We highly recommend that you read our general guidance as it is always updated, and check out Business Connect's Good Application Guide. If you do need help pulling together your collaboration agreement, please do check out the Lambert Toolkit. We cannot otherwise advise you on how to put this together. And we have also provided some other useful links to keep you updated and in touch with all of the opportunities that are available. So I'm not sure.
That's for myself. Thank you, Jamie. Right. Okay. So for those that have attended the recent CAM Pathfinder launch event, some of you will have seen this slide. So I just wanted to reinforce a little bit of messaging here. We have implemented learnings from our group-related company, that's the Advanced Propulsion Centre, to offer business development support to all applicants, single or collaborations. This slide identifies a semi-structured approach how to engage with the BD team. To be clear, we will not be writing your application, but we will provide advice and guidance on your proposed idea as it aligns to your application, as it builds over time and to the particular funding mechanism. Our aim is to ensure that the value proposition, project outcomes, project level KPIs, the business case review are appropriately aligned to the competition scope. Most importantly, we'd like to ensure that you have presented sufficient evidence to provide assurance to assessors of a successful project for delivery, outcomes, and the UK CAM ecosystem. We can also provide interview preparation where that is required or necessary, This approach generally yields some very positive results. We do not guarantee success as it is a competitive environment, and it is contingent upon the final submission, which you will own as the project lead and project applicant. What this information does do is help CCAV, Zenzic and Innovate UK have a line of sight of funding applications in the pipeline. So if you are interested, then please do contact the BD team. Next slide, please. We hope this has provided you with sufficient information to compile and submit your application. As always, we would remind you to read the competition guidance notes, the documentation thoroughly before you start your application. It should act as a good reference point to build your application. Main contacts within Zenzic and Innovate UK especially will help you should you require any clarification. Key contacts for you to engage with through Zenzic is the entire business development team on the screen, but principally Dan Bunting, Head of Business Development, and myself as well, Sunil Mayer. Before I hand back to colleagues, wish you all the best for a successful competition application. Thank you.
Hi everyone. So we're just going to move on to the Q&A part of the seminar. So I'm just going to open the Q&A for any questions. If you do have any questions, please feel free to type them in, and me and the team will answer them. So we do have one question here. Do you fund any offshore research or teams presence in the UK is mandatory? I think, Richard, you wanted to answer this one?
Yes, I'm afraid it is mandatory. You have to be in the UK. It has to be a UK registered organisation that receives funding. Obviously, if you wish to participate from abroad, you can do so, but that will be as an unfunded partner.
I've got a question here. It was stated that the lead organisation can be a UK registered business of any size, but on one side it suggested the lead must be either a transport operator or a vehicle provider. Could you clarify, please?
Shall I take that one as well?
Yes, thank you.
Just to clarify, so we're allowing either single applicants or we're allowing collaborations. If you're a single applicant, you must be a business. And given that the lead applicant also must be the one that has the requirement for the service, that it's fairly specific from that point of view. It doesn't necessarily have to be a vehicle provider, but it needs to be a business if it's a single applicant. If it's a collaboration, then that collaboration can be led by either a business or a local authority or a transport authority. And again, the business or local authority has to be an organisation that has a requirement for the service. So it's not a technology provider, it's a user in terms of the person who's going to be implementing this service to solve a specific problem. I hope that answers the question, John.
Thanks, Richard. How do you define high value areas?
I can take this one. So I think on a macro level here, we're talking about market opportunities. So looking at the different areas, let's say out of the SMMT economic opportunities areas report, touching on some of the things that Michael did around, the off-road sectors and when those particular sectors are potentially due to mature. So that's what we would mean from a kind of a macro level on the high value opportunity areas for CAM. And then the other side of it really is we are looking for you in your applications to be telling us about the opportunities that you have and why those opportunities are of a particular size and scale that it's beneficial for you to be conducting these feasibility studies to get the business cases to go with them. So I think it's looking at it from those two lenses. It's what's your opportunity, and if you need to marry that up then with such as the SMMT report that I mentioned, that sure you're more than all familiar with, and also things like the Zenzic opportunities to scale report as well can also be a useful indicators in that regard.
Thanks, Alex. We have a question here. Is the business case you are requesting the full 5-case business case according to HMT guidance?
Yeah, I
Take this
can.
one? Okay.
Oh,
I
so
was going to say it depends on who you're expecting to fund the service in the end. We want to make it absolutely clear that this competition is not implying that there will be government funding for a project which comes out at the end of the project. So it depends on what you need to, who you need to persuade, what level of detail you need to make that financial case to whoever is providing the funding for the main project. Is that fair, Alex?
yeah, no, great answer, Richard. Yeah, that's exactly the point. So it's not necessarily that you're applying for government funding at the end of it. I mean, it is a good structure, you know, strategic, commercial, financial, managerial, and socioeconomic cases. But ultimately, it's what your business needs to be able to make that next stage funding decision.
Thanks, Alex. And we've got a question here. It says, I can see that the application pretty much requires, I'm not sure if you meant that, outline business case, strategic outline already. So the final must be the full one.
Yeah, I can take this one. So yes, exactly. That's the point. And I think if there's one thing to take home from this is that these feasibility studies are looking for at the end to have very mature business cases to make the decision. So this is about refining and having the opportunity to narrow and really get some detailed answers for your business cases. So that is why the question set is around having the kind of outline understanding, the outline market understanding, already those engagements before you can start it. This isn't an early stage business case feasibility study program. This is a late stage one.
Thanks, Alex. We've got a question here. The information presented seems similar to Pathfinder 1. My question is about how Pathfinder 1 and 2 differ. 1 was on technical feasibility and 2 is on business case. Anything else? And if we have funding from Pathfinder 1, does that mean we can or can't apply for Pathfinder 2?
Should I take this one, Alex? It's true that Pathfinder 1 in some ways is similar. Pathfinder 1 actually had two distinctly different streams. One of them was technical feasibility studies and one was service feasibility studies like this one. For that, we weren't expecting them to be quite as detailed or as advanced. For this particular competition, we're expecting much more detailed business cases to come out at the end of them. And we'd expect these to be able to get to a point where you can actually do a full deployment project as a result. So there is a bit of difference in terms of this one has no technology feasibility studies strand within it, and we'd expect it to be more sophisticated and more advanced. And yes, you can apply if you do have a Pathfinder 1 project, you can apply in for this as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks both. Does Innovate UK offer any networking opportunities to build consortia and create partnerships? Does anyone know this, or is it something I need to find out?
Yes, we do. So Business Connect also offers those networking opportunities. The gentleman you would need to talk to is Anthony Gallego. We can provide his contact details as part of the pack that comes out of this briefing.
Thank you. Could you please clarify if you're interested in behaviouralist soft system types of projects that involve interviews and surveys, which will be led by the UK Uni, or should this mainly focus on hard systems, prototyping, tech, documentation, etc.?
I can take this if you want. I think from the Department for Business perspective, this funding is focused pretty tightly on economic opportunities, supply chain. So it will have to have a strong economic opportunities angle to it. So if it's into areas like behavioral study, societal benefits, those sorts of areas, that will increasingly become the area of responsibility for our colleagues in the Department for Transport and CCAV.
Great, thanks, Michael. Are the emergency services considered to be service operators that might lead a project?
I don't see why not. Do you? I think that'll be okay, wouldn't it, Alex?
Yeah, I think so. We'll. I would say let's go back with a written response on that one.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is it acceptable to bid for a new installation of an established, proven driverless transport solution?
If it's in a new location within the UK, and you are able to justify why, so I think that the bit you're going to have to get around here is what's your case for assistance? What is your case for needing the funding? If you've already got that delivered and you already understand the business case and context for that. So it would be about explaining why you would need to do a new feasibility study to redeploy such a thing, whether that was already in the UK or was overseas and is coming to the UK or something like that. So in theory,
Also, I'd also to articulate that UK economic growth opportunity. I'll come back to that again and again, but ultimately that's the thing that we need to see from this. We've been it's been very made very clear to us with this program that it's about UK economic growth and job creation. So the more you can set out on that, the better.
And just kind of clarify that we're not funding the actual installation of the service, only the feasibility to look at that.
What is the scope of personal mobility?
I think that's private vehicles as opposed to public transport. I think that's what it means in this context. Is that your understanding as well, Alex?
I think that is my take on that question. Yeah.
If you are already in a consortium and a business is brought in to create a small pilot to collect the data, do you have a limit for subcontracting in this competition?
There isn't a limit for subcontracting in this competition, but you will see in question 16, I believe it is, where 17, where you have to, I think it's 17, where you have to justify the costs and why they're appropriate. So it could be, if you're doing your business case, that you need some specialist support to be able to tackle one area of that. So we didn't want to limit the subcontract necessarily, but you do need to prove to justify why that is an appropriate cost and why that person isn't part of your consortium already, whether that's for commercial reasons or different sensitivities. But yeah, you'll need to be able to explain that.
Thanks, Alex. Last question. Are the other streams outlined, such as Mobilise, etc., also launched, or are these to come?
We're hoping to launch Mobilise at some point in the near future, but the other two streams, Demonstrate and Enable. I mean, Michael, maybe I'll look for coverage from yourself to be able to say the dates, but I think we did say the dates in the launch event that we had, where we are looking to launch those within the next week.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's our understanding. None of these things happen until they happen. But that's our expectation is that it will be within the next week. The information event for Demonstrate and Enable those streams was last week, and the various outputs from that session, if you weren't able to attend, will be available shortly. So nothing's happened yet. You haven't missed anything yet. So I think the signal is to get sharpen your pencils and pick up the phone and contact your potential collaborators so that you can hit the ground running.
Yeah, and of course, when they do come out, there will be Innovate UK colleagues, I'm sure, will say that there will be another briefing event for those two, once they are live on IFS.
Definitely, yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Final question. You mentioned earlier that it was a SAE level 4 without a safety driver. Can you confirm whether applications involving a remote operator will be eligible?
Yes. A remote operator, yes. A remote driver, where there's reliance on a remote driver, no. So we're not doing a remote driving. We're not interested in remote driving services. The vehicle must be responsible for the dynamic driving task.
Thank you. Brilliant. I think that's all our questions. So if you have any more, please feel free to pop them in now. We'll give it maybe another minute, and then we'll bring the seminar to a close. If you did think of anything, please feel free to email in. I'll just change the slide so you can see the contact details. So please feel free to note these email addresses down. If you did have any eligibility related questions or even scope, just email the support@iuk.ukri.org and either I can answer them or I'll forward it on. Brilliant. Anything else to add? Alex, Richard, Michael?
Will the slides, Jamie, be attached on the IFS portal, or will it be a link to the video, or both?
There'll be both. So the PDF of the slides will be put up on IFS and there'll be a link to the recording.
I think thanks to Zenzic to Innovate UK for the session, and thank you everyone for joining. I think really looking forward to working with you on things. And I think there's usually a boilerplate on these things, or a small print where we say if there's something that you've got an idea that doesn't fit with what's been set out, drop us a line and we can have a chat about it, see if that is allowable or not. So I think that's something we're keen not to accidentally exclude anything that's got a lot of potential around it. So drop us a line, we can let you know.
Brilliant. Thank you, everyone. We'll bring the seminar to a close and good luck in your applications.